Hey rePROs, whenever anything is happening in the courts, especially when it comes to reproductive rights and social justice, I immediately turn to the Boom Lawyered podcast by Rewire News Group to help me understand what just happened, but also the greater impact. Hosted by the amazing Amanda Gandy and Jess Pieklo, Boom Lawyered brings us some humanity and humor to the law at a time when we need it the most. You can find Boom Lawyered on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome to rePROs Fight Back, a podcast on all things related to sexual and reproductive health rights and justice. Hi rePROs! This week we've got a special feed drop just for you from Sex Ed with DB, a podcast all about inclusive, pleasure-focused sex education. In this episode, host Danielle Bezalel is joined by the one and only Dr. Emily Nagoski, author of Come As You Are. They get into what makes long-term relationship sex great, how desire actually works, and harmful myths about our bodies that just won't die. If you like what you hear, check out Sex Ed with DB wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, let's get into it.
Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, DB. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another season of Sex Ed with DB. This is the first episode of season 10 and our 200th episode. What? Are you kidding me? That is wild. I cannot even believe that I'm saying that out loud. But here we are, and it is all thanks to you all, whoever is listening to me blabber on about how incredible it is to be the host of this podcast. Like, you're the reason why I am here, and I love you. So thank you so much for being here with me. And we have a brilliant guest for this momentous occasion. Dr. Emily Nagoski is our guest today. Pinch me. Am I dreaming? What? Emily Nagoski? She needs no introduction because she's an absolute star. But Dr. Emily Nagoski is the award-winning author of the New York Times bestselling Come As You Are and the Come As You Are workbook. And her latest book is Come Together, the science and art of creating lasting sexual connections. Now she combines sex education and stress education to teach women to live with confidence and joy inside their bodies. She lives in Massachusetts with 2 dogs, a cat, and a cartoonist. She's amazing. And we had such a flow and just such a great rapport. And she's so funny and smart. And I just learned so much from her in this episode. And we talk all about Emily's desert island sexy pics. You're not going to want to miss that. 3 secrets of partners with happy, satisfied sex lives, and why desire isn't as important as you think it may be. And so all that being said, once again, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to our sponsors and to the people who help basically run this, my team, just everyone. I'm so grateful for you all to be here listening to this incredible, incredible interview. And here I am with the amazing, brilliant Dr. Emily Nagoski. Emily, hello and welcome to Sex Ed with DB. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh my gosh, I am the excited one. I kind of said this to you before we started recording, but you're an icon and you are a legend, in the world and especially in the field of sexual health. And so this is the coolest thing, maybe ever in my career, ? To be able to talk to you and really just kind of shoot the shit and chat sexual health stuff today.
Cool. No pressure. Thanks.
No, you don't worry. You're a pro. You've been doing this for a long time. But yeah, today is a really special episode because it is the first episode of season 10 of Sex Ed with DB. We've had a lot of content, a lot of great guests, and you, like I said, you're just so fantastic. My whole team is thrilled to have you. So thank you so much for making time and for being on today.
Truly my pleasure.
Oh, so amazing. Well, with a new season comes kind of like a new format for our episodes. So I'm really, really excited to introduce our audience to this new format that we have. We have, the classic interview will come, but we also have a couple of really fun segments that we are going to basically get to know our guests a little bit better. We're going to learn about their hot takes. We're going to learn all of these things from them, in addition to their amazing work that they do. And so the first segment that we have is called The Quick and Dirty, and it is 3 get-to-know-you questions that my producer Sadie came up with, and I haven't even seen them yet, so I will be answering them with you, and it'll be a way for us to just kind of get to know each other in this fun, sexual health, silly way. So the first question I have is, you're on a desert island. What are the 3 sexy items that you're bringing?
My husband.
Fantastic.
A bottle of silicone lube.
Oh, love it. Any brands you prefer, or just any?
There are a variety of brands that I think are great. Uberlube is great. Fuckwater has an excellent silicone lube.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so those are just 2 that I think are really good. And Swiss Army.
Ooh.
Those aren't the only great silicone lubes, though. Those are just the 3 that come off the top of my head. So I get 3 things.
You get 3, or you can just have 2. It's really up to you. It's just your
that
husband
kind of
and
covers
lube.
it.
Okay, fantastic. You don't even need the 3rd. You're like, fuck it. The 2 that's perfect. Great. I would definitely say, yeah, for sure, my fiance. Fantastic answer. I didn't even think about him. I just thought of the items, but I think he's a good one to grab. Yeah, I would also honestly say like my magic wand. The original. There's nowhere to plug that in.
That's right. Batteries.
I guess, yeah, I would take like my magic wand and then like an endless supply of batteries if I had to.
3rd thing,
yes.
sunscreen.
Listen, you don't want your body parts and your whole
Right?
body getting sun spots and maybe you'll get a little tan on, but
Yeah.
you need that sunscreen for protection.
And
That's
this
very
Irish
important.
skin.
Ah, that's so funny. Very, very smart, very practical. The next question, do you have a favorite fanfic or erotica that you'd like to share?
So I don't know about fanfic or erotica, but I have a favorite romance author.
Ooh.
And that is Courtney Milan, who writes mostly historical romance. Her most recent book is called The Marquis Who Mustn't, which is
I love that title.
It's a romantic comedy, and she's great. Everything she writes is great. She has a historical romance that is like very emotionally intense, called When the Devil Comes Courting.
Oh.
I cried through the whole last 80 pages,
Wow.
including the 19th century sexting.
What does that even look like? What does that mean?
It's the fictional story of the guy who laid the cable across the Pacific Ocean to be able to send telegrams.
Oh,
And the
my
woman
God.
in China who took on the task of creating a Morse code for Chinese.
Oh my God. Just
It's amazing!
because of true love? Like what is the reasoning behind this?
So, this captain, who is a Black American Union Army veteran, is now traveling the world doing this thing of laying the cable so that you can send telegrams around the globe. And he needs somebody. He needs somebody who can create a Morse code for Chinese, which is not a letter-based alphabet, right?
Right.
Like,
how do you do it?
Exactly. And not only does Courtney Milan actually figure out a way to do it, she also has, her character is a woman. So the fact that the hero recognizes her ability and hires her and pays her fairly and gives her a staff and supports her, it is competence porn as well as actual sex.
Wow, that is so nerdy and beautiful.
It's so good.
Incredible. I'm into it. I would say just generally, like, the app Dipsy is just my favorite, my favorite erotica, audio erotica. If you haven't heard of it, it is short, sexy stories with a diverse group of voice actors and actresses, and it includes all sorts of queer stories and conversations around pleasure and the vulva and the clitoris and condoms, and prioritizes BIPOC voices and queer voices. And I just think it's fantastic. So I think if anyone hasn't heard of that, run, don't walk, to download it. And the last one is, what is your current biggest sex ed hot take? Anything that you're kind of like, this is what I think, and I'm proud of that. I'm not afraid.
Yeah. I think there's no such thing as a desire disorder.
Oh, can you tell me more about that?
Well, this is basically the moral of the story of Come Together. I think that couples in long-term relationships, when they seek sex therapy for low desire, which is the most common reason why a couple would seek sex therapy, it's either because one or more of them does not like the sex they're having. And hot take, it's not a dysfunction not to want sex you don't like.
Correct.
Or they're like me, and the origin story of the book is that I was struggling with sexual desire. They're like me, where it's not that I didn't want the sex like I wanted to. I just, I couldn't. Right. I had a context disorder. I was so stressed and overwhelmed and exhausted that my body just couldn't get there. Totally. So I didn't need to treat my desire. I needed to treat the life I was living to create space for desire. And when I could do that, the sex part just took care of itself.
Wow, that is a good one. And we're going to get into your book, don't you worry. But that's really great. I think my sex ed hot take, I think in my circles right now, it is very fun to talk about kind of everyone is opening their relationship and kind of how does that feel? And my hot take is if you don't want to do that, then don't fucking do it. And don't
God, yes.
Right? There's a lot of pressure from, ultimately it's good. I think we're opening our hearts and our minds and thinking outside the box when it comes to how relationships can look. But I do think there's a little bit of pressure and kind of judgment if a couple isn't really interested in doing that. And I think fuck that. If you are just interested in being with your partner and that's the kind of relationship that you want, hot take, you should have it. You should not feel that pressure to do something that you don't want to do.
I think of this as the permission paradox. As sex educators, we want people to know that they have permission to try the thing that feels right for them. But just because we put an option on the table doesn't mean you are in any way required to try it. And it is difficult. People often feel like if you put an option on the table, now they're supposed to want to try it. That if they don't want to try it, there's something wrong with them. And no, people just vary.
Right.
So just because we say, so here's something you could try, doesn't mean it's something you have to try. It's just something you could try. Or you could also not try it.
Think about it this way, or not. That's great. I love that. I love the permission piece of you should do what you want to do and feel good about that. And what other people do is not your business or what you have to do.
I actually got this question as part of book tour. People got note cards and they collected questions and I could answer them. And one of the questions I got was, what should I do if I feel like I don't want to open up my relationship? There was something wrong with them for not wanting an open relationship, which is this weird paradox. Because it used to be, people would feel like there was something wrong with them if they did want to open up their relationship.
Right.
So now it feels like people seem to be experiencing cultural pressure, maybe in both directions simultaneously, you're failing at your relationship no matter what. Here's the deal. The only people who get to have an opinion about the structure of your relationship are the people in your relationship.
Totally.
No one else's opinion matters. And if you are not interested, people vary. You get to be not interested in that.
The piece around you feeling pressure if you did want to is so interesting. I didn't think about that. Or just feeling weird if you did want to do something else. And it's almost we can't win, right? Anything that we're doing, it's just we're just kind of fucked. And whatever.
So you know what? Yeah. You might as well just do whatever you want because people are going to judge you either way.
Totally. No, that is really true. Well, that was the quick and dirty, Emily. Thank you for participating.
Oh my gosh, that was the quick part.
That was the quick part. Now we're gonna get into your book and kind of talk all about your research and kind of your findings and all of your knowledge. Well, not all of it. We'll get to some of it today. But many folks reach out to us with concerns about their sexual connection with their partner, right?
Yeah.
But they really struggle to initiate conversation about it. And I'm wondering, why do you think it's such a hard thing for couples to discuss? And how do you kind of recommend that couples approach this delicate topic without feeling too overwhelmed about it?
Yeah, I'm sure you see this all the time. And of course, like, off the top recommendation number one, like, sex therapist. When I did the event in Brooklyn, Ian Kerner was my conversation partner. He is a sex therapist. And I was like, you can always like get professional assistance with someone who has conversations about sex for a living. And he pointed out that this is not like, you know, a multi-year commitment of like Freudian psychotherapy. This can be just a handful of sessions to get a little coaching in how to practice a skill you have never practiced before. And there are professionals who are experts who can teach you this skill. So, like, shortcut, go to a sex therapist to help you with the conversation. 2, recognize, like, what is the barrier? Because, like, you talk about sex the same way you talk about everything. You just say the words. The problem is, like, what is the barrier preventing you from saying the words? And I find that there's at least 2 really big obstacles people confront. The first is they are worried that if they say something they want or like, their partner will look at them with horror and disgust and never be able to speak to them again. And so like judgment from your partner, or saying something that hurts your partner's feelings that they take personally. The goal in a conversation like this is to open up, to like offer an invitation for greater closeness and connection. And it's so easy to worry that you're going to shut things down because you talked about it in a way that hurt somebody's feelings. So I really recommend having the meta conversation. Like, I want our sexual connection to be like all the great things that I believe it can be. And I know that in order for that to happen, we have to talk about it. And we're not talking about it. So what would it be like if we talked about like the things that make it hard to talk about it?
Right.
Like when I think about talking about it, I freeze up with terror that I'm going to say the wrong thing and use the wrong words and make you feel bad. Maybe we can come up with like a list of like the words that we like to use when we talk about sex. And
So
let's
it's
make
like
a list of the
naming
rules
it.
that are off limits. Like, what words? Like, I just don't want to hear this word.
Right. Because then maybe I'll shut down or I'll feel abandoned or feel weird or something.
Yeah, or I'll feel too guilty or gross, or it won't be... It'll remind me of all, like, the shameful messages that I learned about sex when I was growing up. Like, the purity culture taught me that I wasn't allowed to talk about genital pleasure. So, like, when we get started, maybe we skip that part. Just in the beginning, at least, because I'm not ready yet. Just because you're not ready yet doesn't mean you'll never be ready. But you have to start where you are. Respect where you are.
And don't judge yourself.
Yeah, because where you are is where you are, and that's fine. It's not your fault you got taught that sex is dirty, dangerous, and disgusting, and you should save it for someone you love.
Right. It's not. It's really not.
Like, you didn't choose that.
No. Yeah, the talking about it is a really helpful framework. And just like the more we practice that, the more comfortable we get with using those words and with understanding the discomfort and moving through it.
Yep.
Love it. So great.
Because there is a world where you can talk about these things and not feel uncomfortable. One of the most important things in our jobs is that we stand in front of people and talk about it and are not uncomfortable.
Right.
And it like blows people's
Totally.
minds that it's possible to say these words and talk about these ideas. And we might as well be talking about nutrition.
Right. Yeah, that is really true. It's just the practice of doing it and getting comfortable with it. Amazing. Let's talk about your new book. So your new book is Come Together, The Science and Art of Creating Lasting Sexual Connections. And I love this title, Come Together. It's genius. And in the book, you argue that pleasure should be prioritized over frequency in assessing a satisfying sex life. And I love this so much because there is so much conversation and thought that people have around, well, how much are you doing it? How many times are you doing it a week or what is that? And I feel like that is the wrong question.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you can share, how can couples prioritize quality over quantity, and why is this important?
So I feel like it's very deeply culturally ingrained, the idea that frequency is a measure of sexual well-being. But it's also really simple to contradict it. Like, let's suppose there's a couple that has sex at a frequency that feels to you like a pretty high frequency. I'm not going to say a specific number, but just whatever seems like a lot to you. But one of them doesn't like any of it. Or there's a couple that has sex at a frequency that seems like pretty low to you. Like, really? You only have it that frequency? But both of them fucking love every ecstatic, erotic, playful, joyful second of it while it lasts. Which sex life would you rather have? I've never yet had anybody say I'd rather have the sex life where my partner doesn't like it.
Correct.
I have sex frequently with someone who doesn't want to be there.
Right.
Nobody chooses that.
No, you're right. You're right about that. Yeah.
And I'd be really worried about a person who did.
I for sure would. Yeah, that would be concerning. So what does it look like to prioritize pleasure with your partner? What does that like practically look like?
I'm going to start with the easiest thing, which is prioritizing pleasure that is non-sexual. Like, let's live in a world. So when we were making the Come As You Are podcast, I got to talk to Adrienne Maree Brown, the glorious, wonderful genius of Adrienne Maree Brown, and got this excellent advice. At the end of the day, talk with your partner. It's a gratitude practice, but it's specifically a gratitude for pleasure. What is one pleasure you experienced today that you feel grateful for? Talk to your partner about it and listen to their pleasure that they experienced today that they're grateful for. When you practice this regularly, you end up spending your whole day scanning your experience for pleasures. And it increases your brain's awareness of the pleasures that happen. And it is literally building pathways in your brain that make pleasure more accessible to you. And when it comes to sex, when you've increased the strength of the pathways of experiencing pleasure, when your partner is like touching you and doing all the nice things, and because they're a good partner, they ask, do you like that? You will know the answer. Which so many people, especially early in their sexual lives, but even later in their sexual lives, our brains are so busy chattering about like whether or not we're doing it right, whether or not we're meeting our partner's needs, whether or not this is how it's supposed to feel, that we don't even know whether or not we're enjoying this experience. So practicing experiencing pleasure so that you can recognize it when it happens.
Yeah.
That's a starting place.
I love that. I think that's great. I think this whole revolutionary idea about you literally building these pathways in your brain is so interesting, because if you're not scanning for that pleasure, then maybe you're not noticing it and you're not able to understand what even gives you pleasure, any sort of pleasure.
There's a paper written about 15 years ago now that explores the idea that pleasure is a cue from your brain that you can stop paying attention to something. Because see, the problem has been solved. There's nothing wrong here now. Your brain, your attention can go to solving whatever the next problem is. So there's a sort of like innate tendency for our brain to continue paying attention to pain and to neglect pleasure. So it really does take a practice, a discipline, to fight this tendency of our brain to spend all of its time and attention on problems and worries and pain and suffering, and train it to notice beauty and pleasure and feelings of connection.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. Other things that your book talks about, that you talk about in your book, and your research highlights 3 secrets of partners with happy and satisfied sex lives. And here they are. I'm going to share them. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Friendship, prioritizing sex, and ignoring external opinions. We kind of talked about this in the quick and dirty, right? Of like, do whatever the hell you want because people are going to have thoughts anyway, right?
Right.
And I wonder if you can speak a bit about how these factors contribute to true relationship satisfaction.
Yeah. I hope it's not controversial that liking the person you have sex with makes it better.
Right.
Truly.
Plot twist.
It has been surprisingly controversial, actually, as I've traveled around and talked about these things. When I suggest that, like, it matters more that you like the person than that you want the person. Like, you need a baseline level of, like, I'm attracted to this person, but what matters more than being hot and horny for them is that you admire them and trust them and respect them. Because sustaining a sexual connection over the long term requires a partnership and collaboration. There's a lot of stuff you have to do outside of the actual sex in order to, like, make the sex happen. Because, like, look, we're busy. There's so many things we could be doing with our lives, right? You have to, like, collaborate to find times when both of you are available for the sex. And you have to, so being friends and good partners who can collaborate, who admire and trust each other, makes it better. 2, prioritizing sex means you decide that it matters for your relationship. And look, it doesn't matter for all relationships. And sometimes it can matter in a relationship at certain seasons, and there are other seasons where sex drops off the priority list. That's also normal. The couples who sustain strong sexual connections aren't the ones who never lose track of each other sexually. They're the ones who find their way back. And the reason they do that is because they know that sex contributes something really valuable to their relationship. That it'll be worth it to do that. Does that make sense?
Totally.
The hard part is it means that you have to deprioritize something else. Our calendars are full.
Right.
What are you willing not to do in order to have the time and the energy and the attention to do this, frankly, very silly thing that we humans do?
We're just smashing our parts together, doing
Why?
things.
Why would you smash parts? Why would you, like, lick each other's bodies when you could be watching Parks and Recreation?
I mean, fantastic show. Don't get me wrong.
Exactly. That's fun.
Right. Right. It's yeah, totally. And, like,
And easier in a lot of ways.
right, yeah, you just kind of park yourself there and sit, and sex could involve, you know, being a little bit more active and thinking and feeling and other things.
I actually feel like it's the difference between being entertained, watching Parks and Rec is being entertained, and having sex is having fun. Being entertained versus having fun. Just sitting and receiving something somebody made versus, like, creating something, like playing a game with someone, like sex is.
Yeah. And how does the external opinions fit in? Like, how are people being affected by other people?
So this comes directly from Peggy Kleinplatz. Peggy Kleinplatz is a researcher and therapist in Ottawa. A delightful human being and a spectacular brain, one of my favorite brains currently alive on Earth. And she talked to dozens of people who self-identify as having extraordinary sex lives. And first of all, what is this extraordinary sex like? And how did you get here? How did you get to be a person who has extraordinary sex in your life?
Like 30 Rock, I want to go to there.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go to there. How do we get? How even
Teach
though?
me.
And the answer was, you have to unlearn everything you thought you knew about who you are as a sexual person and what sex is in your life, and even who your partner is as a sexual person, and be ready to co-create your identity and the ways that you're going to connect erotically that work specifically for who you are as a sexual person, who your partners are as sexual people, and what relationships, what your sexual connection looks like between or among you. Let it be genuine and authentic and not following somebody else's idea about who you're supposed to be.
And if you can co-create that, then it's truly yours. Like, it's really, you own it. You kind of, like, are basically the one in charge of your norms as a couple.
Right.
That's really interesting.
Like, other people who are not part of that sexual connection may have opinions. if they find out, but their opinions do not matter.
Right. Back to the hot take about if you don't want to open up your relationship, don't do it. The only two people who matter are you two if you're in a monogamous relationship.
And if you want to open up your relationship, do it.
Do it. Do it. Don't do it. Do whatever you want.
There's literally no rule. There's just what works for you. And everybody has to be glad to be there and free to leave with no unwanted consequences.
Totally. Yeah. Love it. I love that. Let's go back to an older work of yours. Once again, legendary. Come As You Are. You broke down your research about the sexual response system. And I'm wondering if you can just briefly go over what this is for our listeners and maybe share how your perspective on desire and pleasure might have evolved and shifted since writing that book.
Yes. Come As You Are was first published in 2015. I published a revision in 2021 based on things that I had learned by talking to lots and lots of people about what was in the book. But one of the core ideas, chapter 2, is the dual control model, which is this is the actual brain mechanism that controls how you respond. And because it's called the dual control model, we know that there's going to be two parts. And the first part is the sexual accelerator, or the gas pedal, which notices all the sex-related stimulation in the environment, everything that you see, hear, smell, touch, or taste. That's all your exteroceptive senses. Everything you think, believe, or imagine in your cognitive brain, and all of your internal body sensations. And anything it notices that it interprets as being related to sex, it sends a boop, turn on signal. Here we are talking about sex, which is just a little tiny bit of sex-related stimuli. So you have a tiny little bit of boop, turn on signal happening. At the same time, in parallel, you have brakes that are noticing all the good reasons not to be turned on right now. Again, it's everything, your exteroceptive senses, everything you see, hear, smell, touch, or taste. Everything that you think, believe, or imagine. Insert purity culture and body shame here, right? Trauma history. And all of your internal body sensations that your brain interprets as a potential threat. And it sends the turn off signal. So the process of becoming aroused is this dual process of, yes, turning on the ons, but also turning off those offs. And it turns out when people are struggling with any aspect of sexual response, sometimes it's because there's not enough stimulation to the accelerator, but most of the time it's because there's too much stuff hitting the brakes. And this isn't like, it's a cool, accessible metaphor, but this actually literally is how your brain works.
Right. Yeah. And in terms of like that revision that you, or the revisions that you made from 2015 to 2021, were there any changes with this model or more kind of anecdotes or stories, or
part stayed the same. This part, this is, because this is just like the foundation. It's like if I changed the genitals chapter, like we have a pretty okay idea of like what our genitals are made of. And with the dual control model, we have a pretty good idea of what our sexual brain is made of. These are the basic parts all of us are made of. And for each of us, they're just organized in a slightly different way. And we get to know our brains and our bodies. What changed is the more I got into the research, the more... So by the time I get to the desire chapter, I'm talking about responsive desire and spontaneous desire. Now, spontaneous desire is the sort of like out of the blue, sudden, horny, I would like the sexy times. And so you go to your partner with, I got sexy times, would you like? And hopefully they simultaneously and to the exact same extent also have the sexy times. And that's 100% a normal way to experience sexual desire, but then there's also responsive desire, where spontaneous desire emerges in anticipation of pleasure. Responsive desire emerges in response to pleasure. Now, in the first version of the book, I said responsive desire is 100% normal. It is just as legitimate and good and fun and provides as much opportunity for great sex as spontaneous desire. But people want to create spontaneous desire, so here's a bunch of tips for creating spontaneous desire. In the next version, I cut all of that. Fuck spontaneous desire.
And
Spontaneous because the couples who sustain strong sexual connections over the long term, they talk about what great sex looks like, optimal sexual experiences. Desire barely scrapes into the top 10 characteristics of optimal sexual experiences. People who have great sex don't talk about desire. They talk about pleasure. They talk about authenticity. They talk about vulnerability and connection. They talk about empathy. So I think when people have creating spontaneous desire as a goal, that's a legitimate goal that you can totally have. And also, you are aiming for something that is not taking you in the direction of extraordinary sex.
That's so fascinating that, like, I mean, I'm sure you have thought about this, but just me kind of hearing you say, like, I'm a researcher and I have this knowledge. And so in this next version, fuck it, we're going to cut this whole part.
I'm just not going to talk about that.
I love it. I think it's so important because by you doing that, you're kind of showing what we shouldn't be concerned about, essentially.
Yeah.
And what we shouldn't be worried about. And I think that's very powerful that you're able to do that and able to say, no, don't worry about that. You know, it doesn't matter if you need to feel, if you're wanting to feel spontaneous desire. That's not what's going to get you in that top 10 of feeling super great about your sex.
Like, cool. Try having sex you fucking love. Try having extraordinarily pleasurable, fun, laughing, erotic, messy, joyful sex. For a year. Focus on creating maximum pleasure at whatever frequency you can manage. Then see if you're interested in, like, playing with a spontaneous desire thing after you spent a year practicing what it takes to create intense pleasure that you share with someone you care about.
By centering pleasure and fun and trust and all of those things, the good parts of sex will kind of follow. Like, it's like it's all encompassing, like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you were saying with, and this is what I felt when I did a magic wand masturbation experiment last year, essentially where I was tracking like all of these variables and I compared like a treatment week to an abstinence week versus a normal week. And in that, I really saw exactly what you're talking about of like, when all these other pieces are in play, when I'm feeling like really confident in my body, and when I'm feeling less stressed out about work, and when I'm feeling like pleasure from, sexual pleasure, and I'm connected to my partner, like that is the key to my happiness.
Yep.
And I think it's the same thing with sex, just generally. If you're feeling trust, if you're feeling intimacy, if you're feeling pleasure, all of these things, and then you get exactly what you're hoping for, which is fantastic sex.
Yeah. Because it's the same stimulation. Like, the wonderful thing about a Hitachi magic wand is the consistency, right? You get that same stimulation. So, like, what makes the experience different each time? Your state of mind and your external circumstances.
Totally.
Can completely reshape the experience of this very consistent machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. This is so great. I'm so glad that you're on. This is fantastic.
That's my favorite stuff to talk about.
Me too. We're going to transition to a brand new segment that we have, speaking of sex toys, called Bedroom Brainiacs, where I'm going to ask you 3 sex ed trivia questions, and we're just going to see how it goes. Some of them are very random. We'll kind of see. Some of these questions I asked in a live trivia event I did recently, and some of them are harder than others. So are you prepped and ready?
Yeah, I suck at most trivia things.
But this is about sex, so we'll see.
This is my special interest, so let's see.
This is your special interest. Okay, so number 1, diving right in with a sex toy question. Which state, still in 2024, has a law on the books that bans the sale or purchase of, quote, any device designed or marketed as useful primarily for the stimulation of human genital organs, aka a law that prohibits the selling or purchasing of sex toys? And I'll give you this is multiple choice, so I'll give you some options.
Oh, okay, great.
A, Kentucky. B, Alaska. C, Alabama. Or D, New Hampshire. You want me to read the options
Alabama.
again? So, did you say Alabama?
I think it's Alabama, yeah.
That's correct. The answer, unfortunately, is Alabama.
The thing is, I remember that from like 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh, it's
and
still
I
there.
am shocked and saddened to learn that that's still true.
I know, mega bummer. Violators face a maximum fine, actually, of $20,000, the possibility of up to 1 year in jail, or even 12 months of hard labor. As Astroglide put it in their article about this, in short, you can buy bullets, but you can't buy the bullet. Mm-hmm. Quite sad. I'm so sorry, Alabamans, if you're there, and if you're needing to cross the border for a sex toy. That's terrible, but
how do we create a lobby advocating
for sex
for
toys in Alabama?
Like, the right to bear vibrators?
The right to bear. I'm trying to think of another pun. Yeah, it's very unfortunate and so sad. Just generally,
the right to bear pocket pussies.
Fantastic. Like that sex toys, the industry is not even regulated nationally. Like that's the first one that I think we need to lobby, of like making sure that any sex toy that is sold in the US is safe. Yes, and has body safe materials. That's super important.
Yep.
Okay, on to number 2. What does the term chiloproclitic mean? I will spell it. CHEILOPROCLITIC. And I'll give you multiple choice too. Chiloproclitic. A, wanting to have sex at a specific time in the reproductive health cycle. B, having an erotic attraction to a person's lips or mouth. C, releasing an excess of ejaculate fluid during orgasm. Or D, being attracted to someone exclusively wearing leather clothing and accessories.
The urge to Google what the Latin root kilo means is so intense.
Yeah.
And I truly just don't know. I've never heard the word before.
Okay, I hadn't either. And it's actually...
I'm going to guess it's the ejaculation one because of prolific.
That's a great guess. The answer, surprisingly, is B, having an erotic attraction to a person's lips or mouth.
Okay, what is kilo?
I don't know. Should we Google it?
You're try and stop me. You learn something every day.
But now we know. Chiloproclitic. If anyone out there is listening, you have an erotic attraction to a person's lips or mouth. Maybe you think they're very hot. Maybe you are chiloproclitic. Okay, the last question we have here is, use your words, why don't you? These young male ocean creatures may seem adorable, but have been seen to go on killing sprees when they're sexually frustrated. Name the ocean creature. This is a fill in the blank.
Very adorable ocean creatures.
Very horny, adorable ocean creatures.
Is it octopus? Octopi?
It's a dolphin.
Oh!
Isn't that wild? Dolphins go on killing sprees when they're sexually frustrated. Who knew?
Wow.
I really didn't. Very sad, but I guess that... Yeah, I guess that happens
How
in
do
nature.
we tell they're sexually frustrated?
Listen, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm sure there's research on this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up.
You're gonna have to do some homework after this.
Like, what is the methodology?
I don't know. This is great. This is great follow-ups.
I want to know.
I guess it's maybe through some sort of behavior that they express.
Sexually frustrated dolphins. Apparently, it happens in France a lot.
In France, specifically?
That's where these news stories are coming from. I'm going to look for it on Google Scholar.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Play, sexual display, or just boredom relief. This is the non-conceptive sexual interactions in monkeys, apes, and dolphins. There's all kinds of stuff here. I have a lot of rabbit holes after this.
You have a lot of work to do. I'm sure Reddit has something here.
Yeah, I'm not going to go to Reddit. I'm going to go to Google Scholar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Google Scholar, Reddit,
Note for fellow sex educators. Start with Google Scholar.
That's true. Google Scholar.
Then go to Reddit.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of information out there. But thank you for participating in this very silly Bedroom Brainiac segment that we have.
Fun.
And the last segment that we have is a new segment called Booty Call, where we share follower sex stories, asks for advice, and any hot takes that they have. So listeners, if you're interested in sending in a booty call, go to our link tree at our link in bio at our Instagram. And here's our clip that we're going to play right now.
Hi, DB. I'm literally obsessed with the podcast, so I really hope you listen to this. I'm so excited. This story, however, is not so exciting. So this was like one of the first times I was ever really intimate with somebody else, and I was receiving oral. And, you know, we had had a few drinks, and we were like having fun, and so we were like a little drunk, and then he was giving me oral, and he burped, and I was like, I started like giggling, and I was like, oh my God, like, what do I do? And I kind of was just like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, and then he just kind of kept going, like, it was so goofy and silly and like weird and also awkward, and like, I just what would you do in a situation like this? Like, should I have stopped? Should I just been like, you know, this is the name of the game. This is what sexy time's all about, and kept going. But anyway, I hope you listen to this, DB. I love you. I am such a fan.
So I love that clip. That's fantastic. Burping during oral. Let's talk about it. What did you think of the clip? What did you think of the story? What are your immediate reactions?
It's such a sweet, charming story. So delightful. And the answer is there is no what should you do in that circumstance. There is only like what feels right. And it's one of the ways in which like sex education really fails us, especially because we have access to porn more easily than we have access to actual sex education.
Correct.
And in porn, nobody burps during oral sex.
Because then they would just cut it out if that happened in real life.
They would just like cut it out if it happened in real life, but like bodies are bodies. And if you've been drinking beer, for example, burps happen. Look, I have farted during receiving oral sex.
Oh, for sure.
That's a thing that has happened. A while ago, like many years ago, a partner was going to ejaculate on my face, and it went up my nose.
Oh, God. Was it stinging?
It did. It stung a little bit. It stung a little bit. But
listen, fluids everywhere, air, a lot of air coming out of holes.
You want to be friends with the person you are having sex with, because you can laugh together and have it be playful. Dorothy Sayers is a mystery writer. She had her detective say that the only sin passion can commit is to be joyless. It must lie down with laughter or make its bed in hell. There can be no middle way.
Ooh,
it is okay.
Someone has a tattoo of that somewhere.
Silly, hilarious, funny, like, we fold the realities of our messy, noisy bodies into everything that counts as erotic.
Yeah. I personally would just start laughing a ton. I feel like if that happened, and I do like that the listener kind of was like, "Oh, are you good? Like, do you need a break? Like,
I love a check-in.
I love a check-in. Do you need some water? Do you need like a moment?" But if they're like, "No, I'm ready to fucking roll," then you're like, "Hey, I'm already here. So let's just keep it going." I love that.
So what happened is something unexpected happened, and it hit the collar's brakes.
That's it. That's the system.
And and then the caller went on the spiral of like, oh no, is everything okay? What am I supposed to do? Should I just keep going? And when you're having all those thoughts, are all those thoughts activating the accelerator and increasing the sexiness of the situation? Or is it just hitting the brakes more? And it might be that you get so far along down like the spiral of like, that was unexpected. Oh no, what do I do? That you do need to just like pause and give your brain a break and transition to something else for a minute. And that's fine too. Like, there is no right or wrong way to deal with this. But if you understand the mechanism that like, oh, it hit your brakes because it was a surprise, because like there isn't, burping is not part of like the script that you've absorbed from the world about how sex works. But again, like, there's no actual rules. Everybody involved's glad to be there, free to leave with no unwanted consequences. You're doing everything right.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you so much to this booty caller for calling in. This is a fantastic story, and
#relatable.
#relatable, yes. You are not alone. I'm sure that many, many people have had burp stories during oral, during
fart
anal,
stories,
during
ejaculation up your nose.
Ejaculation up your nose, like queefing till the end
fluids.
of the day. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Breast milk.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Certainly.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Bodies leak.
They sure do.
Gas and fluid.
It's not going to stop. We're not stopping anytime soon. Emily, you are such a delight. It is so nice to get to know you and meet you and learn from you. So thank you so much for being on the first episode of season 10 of Sex Ed with DB. 10 seasons. We did it. We're here. And yeah, you are incredible. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
Our creator, host, and executive producer is me, Danielle Bezalel. Our communications lead is Katherine Cohen. Our producer is Sadie Leegee. Our marketing coordinator is Mitch Coburn. Our social media coordinator is M. Kirsty Frazier. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Thanks so much to our featured guests, partners, and listeners. Want to partner with us? Email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. Do you have a silly sex story to share, need some advice, or have thoughts on the episode you just heard? Give us a booty call for a chance to be featured on the podcast. Check the show notes for the details. For more sex ed content, follow us on IG at sexedwithdb podcast and on TikTok at sexedwithdb. Want to know your sex toy zodiac sign? Go to our Linktree on our IG now. See you next time.
That was an episode of Sex Ed with DB featuring Dr. Emily Nagoski. For more smart, funny, and unfiltered conversations about sex and relationships, search Sex Ed with DB wherever you get your podcasts. If you have any questions, comments, or topics you would like us to cover, always feel free to shoot me an email. You can reach me at Jennie, Jennie, at rePROsFightBack.com, or you can find us on social media. We're at rePROs Fight Back on Facebook and Twitter, or rePROs FB on Instagram. If you love our podcast and want to make sure more people find it, take the time to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Or if you want to make sure to support the podcast, you can also donate on our website at rePROsFightBack.com. Thanks all.